make sure you understand that the prospect has the answers. If you're doing all the talking, how are you going to ask any questions and listen to the answers? So remember that. The prospect will tell you everything you need to know to sell them your product or service if you ask the right questions and listen for the answers. Too many salespeople just start talking about their product or service. Too many salespeople just try to make things up and come across insincere because they're basically just trying to sell you something. They're not trying to help you necessarily. They're trying to sell you.
First thing you need to do when someone gives you an objection is identify and isolate it to make sure it's real. Because if it's not real, you can't close it. Too many people get an objection, they assume it's real, they start to try and close it, and it doesn't work. The customer leaves because timing's a lot to do with it. So like, you don't want to spend 20 minutes arguing about something that's not even real. So the first thing you do is identify and isolate it to make sure it's the real one. Now, do you know how to do that? You simply provide what I call a hypothetical solution. A lot of people that want to get into sales always ask, what are the basics? What do we have to master in order to kick ass from the get-go? Well, the 11 basics that I'm going to talk about today are the main ones that you need to focus on. Number one, the art of the introduction. Make sure that you understand one thing. Sales are about relationships. So make sure that your appearance is as fresh as it can be. Make sure your breath don't smell like you ate some kind of sandwich. Make sure that there's no food on your clothes from lunch, and by all means, make sure that you smile. See, you're being judged from the second somebody puts their eyes on you. Don't make it difficult to like you. Don't make it difficult to do business with you. So make sure you master the art of introduction. Now, a tip for the art of introduction is to smile, dude. You have to smile no matter if you have so many teeth missing it looks like your tongue's in jail. You need to smile, extend your hand. If it's over virtual mediums such as Zoom and other things, you need to smile. If you're on the phone, you need to stand up and smile, even if it's over the phone. Folks, you have to master the art of introduction. That is key. You also have to master the art of asking great questions. You see, too many people think selling is all about talking, and it's not. The better questions you ask, the better information you'll get. The better information you'll get, the better you can build value in your product or service. And you know when a sale takes place? When the value of your product or service exceeds the value that they put on their money. It's pretty simple. As soon as you get the value of your product or service above the value of their money, an exchange takes place, which is what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're asking good questions, that allows you to get the ammunition and the information to ask further questions in a conversational manner and get from the customer the information you need to properly build value in your product or service. And in order to do that, that brings me to number 3. You have to master listening. See, a lot of salespeople, they're not really listening to the customer. What they're doing is they're trying to hear what the customer is saying so they can respond intelligently. They're nervous, they're not quite sure how it goes. Again, this is for basics, the beginners. But they get a little bit nervous, so when they're listening, they're not really listening, they're just listening to respond. They're not listening to understand. So you want to master the art of listening. Too many people go into sales and they're not listening to the customer. You have to listen to the customer. If you master the art of listening, you'll be 10 times better off than someone who doesn't. Number 4, you want to master the selling framework. See, you have to adopt a framework. You have to understand that there's steps to a sale. Now, a lot of people will say the first step to the sale is the meet and greet. I don't agree with that. I think the first step to the sale is preparation. Now, as long as you have a framework, you're going to be okay. Don't go out there without a framework. Okay, a framework just simply means step. You can go step by step by step by step. Make sure that you don't shortcut any of those steps because each one has a meaning. But you want to master the framework so you can make sure that every single time is consistent, because once you find a groove and once you start hitting those sales left and right, you want to be able to go back and retrace your steps. You don't want to wonder, what did I say? What did I do? So you master the frameworks from the get-go. That brings me to the 5th thing that you need to master: asking for the sale. Too many people feel awkward or they miss the opportunity to ask for the sale. You have to master the ability to ask for their business. There is a point in time in every conversation, in every presentation, in every demonstration where asking for the sale is appropriate. You don't want to be one of those people that have a customer leave and find out later that you didn't even ask for the sale. Most people never even ask for the sale. So make sure that you master asking for the sale. Make sure that that's something that you do every single time, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not the right time. As long as you do it and you continue to do it, you'll be able to hone those skills and make that better. Number 6, Follow up. You know how many salespeople don't follow up? If you ask, I think the statistics are about 90% of salespeople don't follow up beyond the first contact. Studies show that it takes between 7 and 10 contacts for someone to make an actual purchase. So when the salesman doesn't follow up, how many of those customers are going to another salesperson and giving them the sale when you could have had it had you just followed up? But you want to master the art of follow-up. Follow-up isn't just pinging them over and over saying, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy? Follow-up is an opportunity to build that relationship. Following up is an art, and you need to master that art of follow-up. Okay, and also don't forget a positive mental attitude. Let's call that number 7, a positive mental attitude. You need to master the art of being positive. Yes, it's possible. Yes, it takes a little work, but I can tell you it's the difference between a 5-figure salesperson and a 7-figure salesperson. Just the fact that you're positive, you're smiling, you're optimistic, you're solution-oriented, your enthusiasm transfers. So make sure that every single day you are working on that positive mental attitude and you are demonstrating positivity. When you get to work, leave your problems at the door, friends. Nobody cares that you got problems at home. Nobody cares that your wife's looking at frickin' your neighbor's butt. Nobody cares about what is going on in your life when it comes to buying a product or service from you. They're there to get information and or solve a problem. So you got to leave the problems at the door. Keep a positive mental attitude 100% of the time. I know it's difficult, but it can be done, and that's one of the things you have to master. Number 8, you have to master the ability to have thick skin. You can't let a no bother you. You can't let other salespeople that'll try to twist you bother you. You have to have thick skin. You have to be resilient. You have to be, open to feedback, open to criticism, and you can't take it personally. A lot of times customers might be rude to you. You can't take it personally. A lot of times sales managers might be rude to you. You can't take it personally. Folks, the sales profession is one of the highest paid professions in the world. You might expect a little bit of pressure. Well, a lot of people, when they get that pressure, they snap. They go home, they quit, they feel awkward, they feel uncomfortable, and they give up the program altogether. When, in reality, if they just would have mastered the art of deflection, mastered having thick skin like a rhino to where nothing bothers you, everything bounces off of you, and frickin' your day goes beautifully every single day. That's the art of thick skin. Number 9, the one you have to master most is the understanding that sales is really just a matter of relationships. You're looking to help people solve problems. In order to do that, you need to build relationships. So if you can master the art of building relationships quickly, establishing trust quickly, you're going to have a better opportunity to ask those questions, get those answers, build that value, and make that deal. Okay? Building relationships is something anyone can do, whether you're in sales or not, whether you're a beginner or not. You just have to understand, I'm not here to sell somebody, I'm here to help somebody. You're not a salesperson, you're a help person. See what I'm saying? Just use that mindset as you go to work every day and you start figuring out this game called sales, and you'll see very, very quickly that, man, there's no magic to it, man. You just have to be in the right place at the right time. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. The basics that you have to acquire are few. Here's 11, but man, I can give you probably 30 or 40 or 50. At the end of the day, man, the mindset that you have, the positive mental attitude that you have, the belief in yourself that you have, the ability to sell yourself is key. You have to sell yourself on yourself before you should try to sell other people anything. But when it boils down to the bottom line, it's all about building relationships. I mean, your referrals come from relationships, your reputation comes from relationships. You can make millions of dollars just from the network that you build while you're meeting these people. Not everyone's gonna buy. Doesn't mean you can't build a relationship, so when they're ready in the future, they do. Doesn't mean that you can't build a relationship, so maybe you can refer other people you know and connect people that way and make commission that way, because sometimes you don't have to sell it. Maybe you know someone who can help that individual. You put those two together and you make a commission simply for an introduction, okay? The network that you have will directly contribute to the net worth that you have. So you want to make sure that you focus on that network and understand that it's about building relationships. The other one is asking for referrals. You want to master the art of asking for referrals. A lot of times people just come out and ask for referrals, and it makes it a little awkward, and customers don't want to give you names and phone numbers of their friends and family because they don't want you calling them and harassing them. So again, if you understand that you need to ask for referrals if you want to excel in the game of sales, you need referrals, then you have to master asking for referrals. You want to understand the elements of how to do it and exactly what to say so you don't come across pushy, you don't come across rude, and you don't come across intrusive. So how do you ask for a referral? Well, I teach one thing called flipping the script. Instead of asking asking directly for a referral, create a market. I'll give you an example. Hey, do you know anybody that wants to sell their car? Not buy their car, not buy a car, sell a car. Too many times, people don't want to give you referrals because they don't want you pushing and they don't want you calling their people. So if you do the opposite and you flip the script and now you offer to buy something from that customer, you'll find that people are much more willing to give you names and numbers of people that are looking to sell something, not buy something. So that's called flipping the script. If you can master the art of asking for referrals, you're gonna nail it. Number 11, body language. Damn, pick up a book on body language. Check out podcasts and YouTube videos on body language. Understanding how to read body language will be an advantage to a beginner. 72% of communication is through the body. Not very much is verbal. So a lot of salespeople think talking is the key when listening is the key. But more importantly, understanding human behavior and body language will give you an advantage. Do you know why? Well, because you're going to be able to see whether they're liking what you're saying through their body language, their facial expressions, or not liking what you're saying. You're going to be able to see through body language and facial expressions whether or not they're about to say no and leave, or whether or not you need to shift direction. Having the ability to become a chameleon and adopt your customer's personality is going to be based off reading their body language, reading their micro expressions. So reading people, ultimately, you want to master the ability to read people. So if you're just entering this world called sales, welcome and congratulations. It's the highest paid profession in the world. I can tell you I've made millions of dollars in my career selling, and then I've built 8-figure companies with the ability to sell, close, and persuade people. So anybody that wants to dissuade you from entering into the sales world, start to implement these 11 tips, these 11 requirements, these 11 basics, if you will. And when you're making way more money than the people talking smack, just tell them, OBL.
Melanie, that is completely understandable. Have you ever had a CPA to do what we're going to do?
No, a lot of the times it's just more paperwork.
Right, which would explain why you've never paid that much. Have you ever gotten us back as much as we're going to get you?
No.
Because let me tell you something, Melanie, a good CPA shouldn't cost you anything. The question is how much are we going to save you? So you may not have spent as much on a CPA, but I guarantee you they won't save you as much either. So why don't we give this like one try? Worst case scenario, go back to the cheap ones next year.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
See, you're a lay down.
Yeah, and sometimes though, I say, like, I'll say, you know, the overall, you got to look at your expense, like your CPA cost plus your overall tax bill, add those two up, we're saving you 20,000, 30,000. So it's, you're keeping more in your pocket. So how
I know, but succinct, Melanie, simple that down. Don't tell me to do math as your customer.
Okay.
Don't make me work. Just give me the math.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so I can. Yeah, so like it. Yeah, so like instead of saying what you just said, say it again, but just give me the math.
Okay.
It's too much.
So,
I've never spent this much on a CPA.
Well, how much do you spend right now? I guess that you said don't do that though, huh?
No, I mean, ultimately, you want to identify and isolate it. No matter what you do, just you know it's the truth. So you hypothetically would say, so if we were the cheapest one, you would go with me today.
Yeah. So if you were the cheapest one, you'd go with me today.
Now, again, if they say yes, well then, again, the cost is real, because if it's not the real cost, you know what they'd say? They'd say, well, then I'd think about it. Okay, if they say anything but yes, folks, trust me. There's something else, and you want to root it out by the same exercise. Yeah. Well, what's really stopping you if it's not the money? Well, I need to, well, the next thing you know, 5 minutes later, they finally tell you the real reason they're not moving forward, and then you solve that, and all of a sudden you have a deal, and you're like, holy crap, that worked. But let's just pretend it is the cost. Maybe it is. So here's what I would say in your shoes to follow the steps and procedures. It's too much money. So let me ask you a question, Melanie. If it was the lowest price option, would you do business with me today?
If it was a low price and I knew I was getting good service, yeah.
Okay, so quick question. Is good service most important or the cheapest?
I don't know. Probably the combined two, probably within my budget for the best to the best.
Do you have a piece of paper, Melanie?
Piece of paper, yeah.
Go ahead and grab a pen. I'll wait.
I got a pen.
Okay, write this down. Ready? I want you to write down these 3 words. Fast,
Fast,
cheap,
cheap,
and good.
good.
And we're going to give it any way you want, but you only get 2 of those. Pick 2.
Ooh. Good and cheap.
Then it won't be fast.
Slow.
You want a different pick?
I'll say good and fast.
Oh, then it won't be cheap.
No.
Like maybe we missed the part where I asked you questions. Let's take a step back, Melanie. Let me ask you a question. If you gave me $100,000 and I saved you $1 million, or you gave this CPA $50,000 and saved $1,000, which would be the better deal?
The $1 million savings.
Right. So sometimes it's not what you pay, it's what you get back, and that's what we're here to do. We're going to get you more back than any CPA has ever done before, which is probably why we cost more. But at the end of the day, we're not going to cost more. We're going to make you more. We're going to save you more. Does that make sense? Yeah. And by the way,
yeah.
if you can see your way to trust in me on this purchase or this sale or this contract or whatever it is you guys sell, if you guys can give me 5% of your trust, I'll earn the other 95%. And by the way, if she would have said yes and it really was the money, then I would have took it away. Because I would have said, so if I were the cheapest, you would have bought? And you would have said yes, which means that is the problem. You're the most expensive. Well, then I got to build value. Why? Well, because, dude, the value of your product or service is not higher than their money. Well, what does it cost them? If it costs them 50 grand, what, dude, use logic. Why wouldn't you give me 50 grand to save you 250 grand in taxes? And they'd go, well, I don't necessarily believe you're going to save me 250,000 in taxes. What's that? That means they don't trust you. That means they don't believe you. That means you didn't build the trust. So it may have been a step that you missed, which is why it's important to do every step exactly right. But with that being said, and that being the example, you can also say something like, folks, let me ask you a question. Worst case scenario, you spend a little too much on a CPA this year. Best case scenario, what's the best case scenario? And let them answer it. Like we're role playing, Melanie. I'm you and you're the customer. So worst case scenario, you spend a little too much on a CPA this year. Melanie, what's the best case scenario?
That I find the best CPA that I've ever had.
And
I save a ton of money.
And
I have a lifelong relationship.
And by the way, you can keep going, and then you start helping them. And then you start helping them after they've named some on their own. Then you start helping them. And you have a trusted source in the industry, and you have somebody that's studying the records every day, and they'll reach out to you and save you money before you even have to ask us about it. And this is probably a good idea to move forward on, isn't it, Melanie?
That's good, yeah. I'm going to use both of those.
Yeah, it's not always, listen, cost versus price. You guys know the difference? Cost versus price? There's a cost and there's a price. So let's say, for example, you have 2 cars. One is $20,000. What's that? The cost or the price?
Price.
That's the price. $20,000. Write it down. Then you got another car. It's $30,000. What's that? The cost or the price? Anybody?
Another car, $30,000 price.
That's the price. Okay, so you got a $20,000 car with a price of $20,000. You got a $30,000 car with a price of $30,000. Which one's cheaper?
$20,000.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, then let's continue. Okay, the $20,000 car breaks down often because it's a pile of shit. It's going to cost you approximately $14,000 to maintain the car just to get from point A to point B relatively consistently and reliably. So write down $14,000 underneath that 20. Okay, the $30,000 car is a little more dependable. Why? Well, it's a better brand. Lasts a lot longer. It's only going to cost you $6,000 to get that beast running for the year, gas, insurance, etc. Okay? Right? Now, wheels and tires, air conditioning, embarrassment, parking around the block, all the shit you do in the $20,000 car. Put another 10 grand. It's going to cost you another 10 grand. The $30,000 car, you don't have that problem. Doesn't cost you anything more. Now draw a line under it and add those up. The $20,000 car with the $14,000 repair bill and the $10,000 embarrassment factor is a total of what?
44.
That's the cost of buying that car. The $30,000 car with a $6,000 maintenance is $36,000 total. So the cost of the $30,000 car is cheaper than the $20,000 car. Cost versus price, folks. It's not always the same thing. You got people confusing your price with someone else's costs.
And depreciation.
What's that?
Depreciation, that's the biggest cost of most cars.
Yeah, you can get all technical if you're a CPA. I'm not. I was gonna say 3 potatoes and a tomato and a radish, but whatever. You guys get my point? Okay? Your price, Melanie, might be higher, but the cost of the cheaper one is far greater. And again, if you guys are in a situation where you're like, well, yeah, in that situation, it makes a lot of sense, but that's not the situation I'm in. It's literally the same thing. We're just ripping people's heads off. We're charging 3 times as much for the same shit. Well, then you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you, because you'd be the only differentiator between 2 similar products and services, right? Right?
Yeah.
Because, dude, if someone else can't sell you with the product, only you can sell you and the product. So if 2 similar products are the same, yours is 3 times higher, and they are literally the same shit. You can get it cheaper right there. What's the only difference between getting this cheap thing from here, paying 3 times for it here? What's the only differentiator? Me. Which is why you got to be certain. You got to build relationships. You got to freaking establish a connection. You got to establish trust. You got to be an expert. Because in some cases, I will pay 3 times more for the same product to know that I got someone I can trust and call and lean on and hang with. Yes or no?
Yeah.
And it'd be smart for someone to actually do that. It's not all about money. Okay, sometimes the best deals I ever gave caused the worst experiences. People come back, hey, can you throw in tint, bro? We're best friends when they drove off the lot. Then they come in, I gave them the car. We lost money on it, right? Literally, lost $900. You know, they're happy, everybody's happy. You know, they leave, we lose money on the car. They swing in, hey, dude, can you throw in a little tint? Bro, I can't, man. I lost $900 on that. Well, dude, I thought I was your friend, man. Well, can you at least fill up the tank? So you want me to lose $960, dude? Dickhead, are you not listening? I lost $900. Man, what a dick. What a dick. You don't have to treat me like that. And then guess what happens? The little manufacturer survey shows up and they bomb your ass. They say you're the biggest dick in the world. And then if you don't like own the place, you'll work there. Next thing you know, they're on the phone with your manager. This person's an asshole. You should really train your people to be more respectful. Now you lost your job because you bent over backwards. The problem is, and I learned this a long time ago, folks, write this down. It's okay to bend over backwards, but refuse to bend over forwards. I want to talk about the 5 things every salesperson or anyone in sales should know. Too many of them fail to realize this until they quit, give up, or spend their entire life not making enough money. So this is the 5 things every salesperson should know. Number 1, you get paid what you're worth. You never can go around complaining about what you're making as a salesperson because technically you get paid what you're worth. You're on 100% commission in most cases. If you're not, there's as a base salary, but that's not necessarily why you're in sales. You get paid what you're worth. So never complain about your pay plan. Either find a new company to work for, or just work harder, or just work smarter. But never complain what you make, because you get paid what you're worth. Therefore, if you get paid very little as a salesperson, it's because you're worth very little as a salesperson. Don't go around complaining. Just change the company, change your work ethic, change your product or service, but you have to make a change. If you're not making money, it's because you're not worth very much as a salesperson. How do you get good as a salesperson? Well, you could go to closer school, obviously, ding, or, you could pick up a book, you could study, but trust me when I tell you, you get paid what you're worth. So whatever you do, if you're not getting enough, if you're not making enough, if you're not earning enough and you want more, you have to do more. The number 2 thing salespeople need to understand and really know, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. Bottom line. Folks, if you're in sales or you plan to be in sales and you want to make the most amount of money, just make sure that you shake a lot of hands, make a lot of introductions, make yourself known, whether it's through marketing, advertising, whether it's virtually or in person. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. It's directly a numbers game. Anyone that tells you it's not a numbers game doesn't understand sales. I've heard some pretty convincing arguments like, well, it's more of a people game, because if you can be nice and do this, you'll sell more. Yes, I agree that it has to do with a lot of other things, but when it boils down to it, it's just a numbers game. You want to make more, meet more people, get more opportunities to present your product and service. It's not rocket science. Don't make it harder than it is. If you want to make more, shake more. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. Now, the third thing that all salespeople need to understand if they want to be better salespeople is you don't sell people. Look to help people. Now that sounds cliche, but it's the truth. If you enter a relationship looking to help the individual, sometimes your product or service may or may not help somebody. But if you're looking to help somebody, and that is your honest motive, it changes the vibe about you. It changes your personality a little bit, and it changes your aura, your energy, your vibrations. It changes things. So when you make that initial approach and you reach out your hand to introduce yourself, there's a better mutual connection opportunity, because you're honestly and openly looking to help them instead of sell them. Too many salesmen are out there just wanting to sell you something, which is why they come across a little bit aggressive, which is why they don't come across as sincere. And the way to fix that is very simple. Stop trying to sell people and just start looking to help people. Number 4, position yourself as the expert. Too many salespeople don't understand this simple principle. People want a go-to resource in that particular industry. People want to know that they're working with someone that has their best interest, number 1, but knows everything, number 2. So you have to position yourself as an expert. How do you position yourself as an expert? Well, you have to do a lot of research. You have to do the work most salespeople won't do. You not only have to become an expert at your own product or service, but you also have to become an expert at your competitor's product and service. You literally want to become the expert in the industry, the go-to person, the one everybody wants to talk to when it comes to buying the product or service in your particular niche or market. You got to position yourself as the expert. Don't walk in there all half-assed and half-cocked. And by the way, if you do get caught in a situation where you didn't do enough preparation or enough studying to become the expert, go and take care of that. But if you get caught being in that position, here's what I suggest. Be honest, be authentic. Don't try to make it up. Just tell them that you're new and you don't know, and if that's important to them, you're going to write it down and find out the answer. It's okay not to have the answer as long as you say that you don't have the answer. The problem comes when salespeople try to BS the customer, make up the answer because they feel as the salesperson they should have that answer. When in reality, that's probably true, which is why I'm telling you to position yourself as the expert. And in order to do that, you have to become the expert. You have to do the work. You have to take the time and prepare and do the work. But if you get caught in a situation where they ask you a question that you don't know, don't fake as an expert. Just simply tell them that you don't know, and if it's important to them, you'll find out. People like that. People like the honesty. It'll build trust. But if you can, number 4, position yourself as an expert. The last one I want you all to understand, and make sure that you guys fully understand what I'm trying to tell you here. The prospect has the answers. If you knew for a fact that all of the answers you needed in order to sell that product or service were within your customer's mind or pocket or briefcase or purse, you knew the answers you needed were sitting right there, what would you do? You'd obviously get up and go get those answers. The problem is most salespeople don't understand that the customer's the only one that's going to tell you how to sell them your product or service. The customer knows exactly why they value your product, why they value your service, and how you can do business with them. But salespeople don't slow down to ask the questions to the customer so they get the answers they need. So number 5 is make sure you understand that the prospect has the answers. If you're doing all the talking, how are you going to ask any questions and listen to the answers? So remember that. The prospect will tell you everything you need to know to sell them your product or service if you ask the right questions and listen for the answers. Too many salespeople just start talking about their product or service. Too many salespeople just try to make things up and come across insincere because they're basically just trying to sell you something. They're not trying to help you necessarily. They're trying to sell you. They're salespeople, not help people. Don't be like most salespeople. Most salespeople make 80 grand a year or less. The top salespeople in the world, the top sales professionals, are the highest paid professionals on planet Earth. I mean, if you're not making $300,000 a year, I'd keep watching more of these videos or hit me up.
Hey, you want to spend an hour a week with me helping you become a business badass? Well, check out my group in the link below.
This is Brad. I appreciate your follow-up, Gary.
Hey, you got it, man.
Buddy, how many times have you tried to reach me and had no luck?
I can't even count that high.
But you just keep calling like you want something.
For sure, man.
What
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
So what is it? This is your lucky day. What is it that you want, Gary?
You know, so I was thinking of the value I can create with marketing for businesses around commercial real estate. So like apartment buildings, retail centers.
How much is it?
So right now I'm putting together a package for like an investor group.
I don't have any money.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, the reason why I called you was because you know Bobby, right?
I certainly do. Boy, he has some money, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I had recently connected with him on LinkedIn, and so I'm just trying to keep the relationship going with him and see.
Oh, so you're using the old broke dick Brad Lea to try to get to big dick Bobby C.
Well, yeah, man, because I want people to trust me and see that, like you said, like you can see that I got follow-up game, right?
Well, I don't have any money though.
That's okay. Well, you got it tied up in your business?
No, but what's funny is I'm on Closer School and you're featured on it now. And one of the dudes just said a lot of his customers say I don't have money. So I was literally just hearing what you'd say.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so give me your advice as a closer master. What was right? What was wrong with what I said?
I kind of liked what you said only because I appreciate to the point shit. I can tell you that there's 4 types of buyers. I'm one. What you would have done works with me. You didn't even say anything where money was involved, so you should have picked up that I was fucking with you. But
right, I was trying to see where you were coming from.
yeah, but no, actually, I'm using you as an example. So I got your permission to make $1 million selling this lesson.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. Now, the other advice I'd give you is tell me, what do I like? Because you want me to help you, correct?
Yeah.
So if you want me to help you, well then, why wouldn't you want to help me? And if you want to help me so I'd help you, well then tell me, what would I consider help? Do you know?
I think I would look at it as, how can I help you meet your objectives with your company?
I would suggest that you worry more about me first before you worry about you. Yeah, because what you did is you called up and you're kind of worried about yourself. How do I get in front of Bobby? And by the way, I'm just using this as an example. I don't mind, dude. I'm just critiquing you. If I were coaching you and I heard this call, I would say, when you got a hold of Brad, you should have basically shot a little shit, made sure his family was safe, found out what's he up to, what's going on. And ultimately, I would have prepared myself prior to ever calling him, and I would have basically already knew by his stories and following him that he's smoking cigars lately. I would have probably sent him a cigar and called him after that. And then I would have said, Gary, my man, Dobbsarino, what's happening, bro? Shit, I got those freaking Cohibas, man. That was awesome. Appreciate that. Where you get those? And then you went, oh, man, my buddy's in Cuba. I can get him any day. Then I said, shit, how do I get some? You'd be like, shit, dude, you believe in tit for tat? Tit for tat? I would have said, well, yeah, I believe in tit for tat. Why? And you'd have said, well, just so happens, you know my man, Bobby.
Uh-huh.
And I would have said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. And you would have said, and I know a dude that's got some Robustos. So if we can make a swapperino. And then I'd have said, damn, dog, that's a freaking smooth son of a bitch right there. How many boxes? and then you would have said, oh, dog, that might be worth 10, 20 boxes. And I'd have said, shit, I'll text you his number right now, but don't tell him where you got it. But then you would have said, no. I need you to introduce him to me. I need you to vouch for me. And then I would have said, oh, dude, well, we might have to go to Cuba, smoke some cigars, allow me to get to know you before I would ever consider doing that. And then that would tell you, cross Brad off the list.
Or, yeah, right. And be like, well, at least I got you to give me the condition, which is good, right?
100%. Now you know what case to solve. You got that right, Gary. Hey, I might introduce you, dude. I don't really like doing that, but I mean, how do you know him? I mean, why won't he pick up on LinkedIn for you?
Well, yeah. So we've chatted back and forth on LinkedIn messaging.
So what do you need me to do?
Well, I just, like as another guy, like that he knows that I know, and so that it would just help me raise the trust factor, speed up the relationship a bit.
I got you.
Yeah.
What are you trying to close him on?
Well, because I want to see if there's opportunities for me with my marketing, my digital marketing services, to help him with this portfolio. I like to market like apartment buildings, retail centers. I want to do the big.
Have you asked him?
No, because I haven't really pitched it. I've been just more asking about his advice on, what he thinks.
Yeah, but why haven't you asked him?
Because at first, when I reached out to him, it was because he was on Billionaire Nights, and I said, hey man, I saw you on Billionaire Nights with Dan Fleischman. I thought you were great. I really connected with it. I just really appreciated you making yourself available and being on.
Yeah, but why didn't you ask him what you just said you want to ask him?
Oh, because I haven't asked him yet, because I'm doing a little bit more research about the strategy, because I didn't pitch my services, but I know he's very soft on, he's not going to buy anything this year. He's mostly... You
already know that?
Yeah, because he told me
So
he's waiting to see what happens next year.
Yeah, but you're going into the deal with that attitude?
Oh, well, maybe you're right. Maybe I need to rethink it, but I'm just looking at it more, trying to find out more what value, does he need? Like, what would he outsource?
Well, dude, listen to what you just said. You said, dude, what I want to ask him is if he needs help digitally marketing for some of his bigger properties and his commercial properties. And I said, did you ask him? And you said no. So how come you haven't asked him?
Okay.
I mean, haven't you already talked to him?
No, well, it's only been LinkedIn direct, messaging.
But you're communicating.
Yeah, communicated in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you just ask him?
Yeah, I will. All right, I'll do that.
Dude, do me a favor. I'll make you a deal. You get on LinkedIn and say, hey, Bobby, I'm interested to know if you are interested in blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Yes or no. Like, again, I don't want to bother you, but man, yes or no, and see what he says. If he says no, I'll call him and I'll three-way you, and we'll find out why he said no.
Okay.
But if he says yes and he gives you an opportunity, then just remember the biggest lesson of all: you don't get if you don't ask. You might not even need to be calling me right now. You could have just asked him already.
Right.
And by the way, Bobby's a really down to earth, cool dude. I think realistically, if I were trying to psychologically tear this apart, you're afraid of ruining the opportunity. You're afraid of what he might think of you by being so blunt and direct, and you have a little bit of fear. Would you agree?
Yeah, a little bit, because I want to be prepared for the pitch and the opportunity. So
Yeah.
if he does say yes, I want to be able to follow through.
Yeah, sure. And again, that's wise. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're a little bit afraid of what he might think if you were to be so blunt, and you don't want to ruin your opportunity. So I always tell people, and I always use this as an example, because guess what? You're not ruining an opportunity by asking someone to participate in the opportunity.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dude, you're a champ for volunteering. This was a random call. You're probably thinking, damn, dude, I didn't call to get a lecture.
No, man. I'm always working, dude, 7 days a week. So anytime I can learn, I sharpen my iron, I'm up for it.
Well, here's my advice. He's a cool dude, and this is why I'm giving you this advice. Wouldn't work every time, but Bobby's cool, dude. Shoot him a direct email that says, hey, Bobby, I just spoke with Brad Lea. He told me you were one of the down-to-earth, most coolest billionaires he's ever known. So here's my question. Do you need help doing this, this, and this? If so, I'd love 5 minutes with you. And I'll bet you money. If he's interested, he'll give you 5 minutes. And if he isn't, he will literally give you an answer worth getting. And if he does, and if he doesn't, you call me back, and then I'll introduce you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's a deal.
Fair enough. I gotta run.
Yeah. Okay, man.
Peace.
Peace.
Folks, you guys see what I'm talking about? No, this guy ain't no schlub. He's a successful dude. He's fearing he's already talking to the guy he wants me to introduce him to, but what he's trying to do is build, and it made a lot of sense what he's doing. There's some strategy there, but folks, don't worry so much about strategy. When you talk to the decision maker and you've got an opportunity to ask that person for their business, ask the person for their business.
You're going in there to help. It's your tone, it's your confidence, it's your personality, and more importantly, it's your perspective. Quite frankly, I'm not going to allow anyone to disrespect me just because they've been abused by other salespeople. And I've told people that before, where they're snapping at me, and I smile. I'm not mad at them when I say this. I smile and start laughing, and I'm like, dude, trust me, man. If you're going to take it out on me, we can part friends right now, dude. I don't need to be the one helping you. Shit, Mike. Do I need to get headgear? Like, who screwed you in the past, bro? And a lot of times people are like, no, it's just, a lot of people are trying to get in my pocket, see? You have a conversation, man. You just move along. But why am I not worried? Why do I seem so confident? Why do I position myself with power? Because I already know something, Jack. There is nobody on this planet better than me. They might be ahead of me. They might be richer than me. They might be a lot of things, but they're not better. They're not a better human being. So they're not better than you. And quite frankly, you're more knowledgeable in an area than they are. And guess what? That's coincidentally why you're fucking there. So now you roll up. Hey, how you doing, Jack? I'm the stucco guy. What's the problem? Start looking around their walls. Like, oh, shit. You see that crack right there, bro? Thank God I'm here, man. You got time? By the way, someone told me you filled out a form. I didn't fill out no damn form. Ah, shit. Oh, well, lucky I'm here. You see that split right there, dude? You know what that means right there? Jack, you know what a split and a stucco means? Me either, but it sounds good, doesn't it? It means possible foundation. Faulty foundation, bro. What if I did a free faulty foundation inspection for you right now? Would that help you out a little? Dude, no problem. Now I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing a free foundation inspection. And by the way, I'm going to need to walk around your house, and I'm going to need to ask you a few questions. First one is, how long since you stuccoed this pig? Who picked this color? Like, why would you have it this color? It's not rude until you make it rude. Like, what? Like, watch. Hey, Desmond, what's going on, buddy? Did you buy that shirt?
Yeah.
Why'd you pick white?
It's just a white tee.
See, why are you defensive? It was just a question. Why'd you pick white? I like white, dude. I think white looks good. See, you guys all thought, hey, whoa, how do you ask that question? You just fucking ask it. Dude, why'd you paint your house this color? Now, what you heard me say is, why'd you paint it that color? Well, again, if it's like a ugly color and I wanted to rib my newfound buddy, I would say it like that. I'd be like, damn, Jack, why'd you pick that color, dude? Holy moly, are your neighbors mad at you? Damn, dude, not only a new stucco job, but let's get this paint going. Now, you like darker colors or, lighter tones? Looks like you might be into, hey, by the way, dude, looks like you might be needing some windows as well. How long since you've had these replaced? What's your power bill, dude? What? You're paying what? Holy shit, dude, you got a ladder? Let me get up on your roof and check something out. Holy moly, dude, your roof's totally trashed, by the way. And when I was up there, I noticed your pool was freaking filthy, dude. Why you keep it like that? Let me ask you a question. If I could get somebody to get the pool taken care of on a regular basis, so that's beautiful when you come home from work, grab that Miller Lite and sit back there and have your cigar, wouldn't it be better and more deserving if it were a crystal clear pool? And by the way, what if I could show you how to save $400 on your power bill because of this damn solar job? And by the way, 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 and bang, close the deal, bro ham. I wouldn't go in there and be like, hey, I didn't fill anything out. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't want to bother you. I'm just a lowly sales rep hired to put pressure on people. We don't do that anymore, okay? We're human beings. We're good people, actually, and we're looking to help people. Help them do what? Help them restucco their house. Help them get some solar. Help them fix their windows. Help them lower their power bill. Help them not be embarrassed. Help them not be the laughing stock of the neighborhood. I don't know. I'm not there. Dude, go value yourself, buddy. You got to get some confidence, man. You got to understand these people are customers. You didn't treat them badly, even though they may have been treated badly. You need to roll up there like you own it and roll out like you sold it. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, dude, it's because of the way you were raised or taught, and that just needs to change. What does that mean? That means go seek knowledge until you feel like you're more valuable, because you're never going to outperform your own self-image ever. So you have to raise your self-image. How do you do that? Go read The Sacred Six. I talked about it a couple sessions ago. Go in the library of archives and listen to it. That'll teach you how to build personal confidence and value and self-worth, but you got to do it over time. And dude, I'm telling you, within 3 to 6 months, bro, you'll be knocking on those doors like you own them. And you'll be closing the hell out of deals too, because you go look at the people that are crushing it in sales. They're not worried about what a customer might think of them. They know it's a numbers game. They know it's a process. They got thick skin. Because guess what, folks? Just remember, you're getting paid whether they say yes or no. All you're doing is lowering the average. If I got to talk to 10 people to make $1,000, I made $100 a person. No, you made 1,000 on that one. No, it took me 10 people to get to the one that gave me 1,000, which means I got $1,000 to talk to those 10 people. So you get paid either way, man. Smile. Smile, be happy, have positivity, have gratitude. You know what I mean? Be the light, folks. Don't be negative. Don't be insecure. Insecure is not a positive thing. Don't be skeptical. Don't be shady. Don't be quirky. Don't be nervous. Those are all negatives. Be positive. Be happy. Look to help the individual. Build a relationship if nothing else. Maybe they don't need your services right now, but they will 3 months from now when you switch jobs because you got fired because you couldn't close a deal. And now you're selling freaking pool supplies, and guess what? They do need pool supplies, so now you got someone you can go back and sell because you built a relationship instead of worrying about selling people. Relationships are the new currency, folks. You guys want to simplify it? The more hands you shake, the more money you make. Ask yourself, yesterday, how many people did you go out of your way to meet that were brand new, you've never met before? Ask them what they did, start getting to know them a little bit. You'll be starting to go, well, I didn't really, exactly. It's the same thing with reading. We all know this stuff, we just don't do this stuff. If we start to change our habits and we start to do these things, the world changes.
Give me 5 tips to become the best salesperson. That's an interesting question. Now, I would have to say tip number 1 would be study the competition. See, there's a lot of salespeople out there masquerading as salespeople. They don't necessarily know the market very well. They're not an expert in the industry. They're new, they failed to study the competition, they failed to understand the landscape of the industry, and they're not necessarily as helpful as a best salesperson would be. So the tip is study the competition. 9 times out of 10, when someone's gonna be leaving your environment, it's gonna be because they didn't get enough information to make a decision, or they have other things to go look at. They have other things to consider. What if you were an expert in the field? What if you already studied all of the competitors? What if you knew more about the competitors than the competitors? Why would the customer need to leave to go talk to another salesperson if you're already an expert on that particular model or that particular competitor's product? So tip number one would be study the competition. Really become an expert in your field. You want to be the go-to person. You want to give them a certainty that, man, this individual knows what they're talking about. And in order to do that, you study the competition. Too many salespeople study their own product, their own service, but they fail to study the competition. So tip number one, study the competition. Get to be an expert in your field in all areas, not just your own, not just the company you work for, not just the product you sell or service that you offer, but competitors as well. Number two, I would say you want to learn to ask the right questions. I can tell you, value is delivered and gross is made by making sure that you have the right information to build value in your product or service. In order to build value in your product or service, you need to ask great questions so the customer will give you great answers. So learning the right questions to ask would be tip number two, because if you get that information, it's much easier for you to build the value of your product or service beyond the value of their money. And it allows you to build rapport, get to know the individual, see if there's common ground. It's just to have a great introduction will determine how open they are, which will determine what questions you can ask and how you can ask them. But learning to ask the right questions is imperative for any salesperson that wants to take the profession seriously, because after all, the way you get someone to buy something from you is to build value for your product or service. How do you build value? You can make some assumptions. You can talk about what's exciting to you. You can talk about what's exciting to the world. You can talk about what the magazines are saying. Or, and here's what the best salespeople do, they find out from the customer what excites them, what problems it's solving for them, what it's replacing. They're getting the information from the customer so they can directly relate the benefits and advantages of the product or service to the customer specifically, not in general. And then they build that value much easier because they learn to ask the right questions. Number three, outwork everyone, okay? Most people don't really want to work very hard, which is why they get into sales. It's fairly easy money. All you have to do is write up some orders, help some people, smile, and 9 times out of 10, you're making decent money. So naturally, I think salespeople are a little bit lazy. That's why they're in sales. So if you want to be the best, forget being lazy, forget waiting on showroom traffic, forget waiting on walk-ins. Start to learn how to prospect. Start to learn how to hunt for the deal. Don't wait for customers to come to you. Don't rely on the company advertising to feed you or give you opportunities. Learn to prospect and hunt and outwork every single person that you're working with. You want to make sure that nobody outworks you. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. If you're scheduled from 8 to 5, work from 8 to 8 minimum. Okay, outwork everyone. That goes without saying. Most people in the sales industry tend to get into a habit of just filling up their pipeline. They don't go too much. They start to go by the internal gauge of comfort and they tend to slow down. So if you want to be one of the best salespeople on earth, then you gotta have good work ethic. You have to do more than expected. You have to literally outwork everyone else if you want to be the best. Number 4, I want you to be solution oriented. I want you to be a problem solver. I mean, if you think about it, when it boils down to it, what is a salesperson? What does a salesperson do? If they're doing it right, they're helping people solve problems. They're presenting solutions to people. So if that's the case, why not become solution oriented? Now, how do you become solution oriented? You start to look on the bright side of things. You start to remain positive every single day. You realize that there is a solution to every situation and focus on the solution, not the problem. With that positive mental attitude, that optimistic outlook, and that certainty that there is a solution, that is being solution oriented, you start to become a much more trusted individual. Naturally, you come across more trustworthy. And when it boils down to it, the ability to establish trust immediately is vitally important. So if you become solution oriented, it just kind of tends to train your mind to start looking for solutions rather than problems, and that in and of itself will take you far. The last thing I'd tell you for the 5 tips, even though I could give you 500 tips, at least for this video, is keep records. The best salespeople keep records. They leverage technology and make sure that every little piece of data that they collect is entered into a software or on a 5x7 card. Their birthdays, their anniversaries, their kids' names, their favorite sports teams. You have to keep records because as you become a better and better salesperson, ultimately becoming one of the best, which is what you asked for, to be the best salespeople, you need to keep incredible records because those records will be utilized to get referrals, do follow-up, create new deals down the road, and literally establish your career and reputation.
In all reality, the first thing you need to do when someone gives you an objection is identify and isolate it to make sure it's real. Because if it's not real, you can't close it. Too many people get an objection, they assume it's real, they start to try and close it, and it doesn't work. The customer leaves because timing's a lot to do with it. So like, you don't want to spend 20 minutes arguing about something that's not even real. So the first thing you do is identify and isolate it to make sure it's the real one. Now, do you know how to do that?
No.
Anybody? You simply provide what I call a hypothetical solution. A hypothetical solution. And the fact that it's hypothetical means that you have unlimited power. So give me any objection.
It's too expensive.
Okay, so now I'm gonna hypothetically remove that objection. So if it were the right price, you'd buy it?
Yes.
Okay, so I just got him to continue by identifying, isolate it. Now, give me more objections. Ready? If I could make that cheap enough, would you take it home with you?
Quite possibly, but I have to ask the wife.
Okay, then that means that's not fucking real. Okay? It's not real. I tried to identify and isolate it by providing a hypothetical solution to remove this thing, and you didn't say yes and continue, which means that's not the only one, or it's not the real one. Move it aside. Quit talking about price. Well, what else would be stopping you?
I'm just not in the market to buy right now.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, and obviously, dude, that makes sense. You wouldn't buy something you're not in the market for. But if you were in the market for it, would this be the one you'd buy?
I think we worked on the price a little bit, possibly.
See? Now you just jump back to price. So you got to identify and isolate the objection before you freaking try and handle it. You don't handle a false objection, a smokescreen. So until the person says yes, that's step one. You identify and isolate. Make sense? And then step two is you now have to handle the objection. Now you just made a hypothetical what? Solution to the problem. A hypothetical solution was, what if I made it affordable? That's hypothetical. Okay, so, and it solved it. You said, yeah, you'd move forward. Okay, well, folks, between you and me, I don't really care if you bought that for what I paid for it, quite frankly, but management here obviously gets to decide. So now we're moving into negotiation. See, there's no longer an objection. You just got past it. Now, let's, and again, if you go another direction, that's because this isn't real or it's not the only one. So now that you've solved it and you found it and you get a yes, step two on handling the objection is now you solve the problem using logic. Logic is an acronym for you leverage obvious gain, right? You use intelligence and common sense. So like, for example, it's too expensive. My wife's not here. What's another one? Can't afford it. What's another one? What are the objections everybody uses? They're all the same. They're all the same, aren't they? Think about it. Oh, you have to think about it.
What makes you special?
That's a question. That's not an objection. An objection is I'm not moving forward. And I say, why? Why aren't you moving forward? Don't need it, don't want it, don't like your product. Some of those guys, move on to your next customer. Don't sit there and scream and fight and beg people to buy your shit. Sell some shit you're proud of, okay? Next thing you know, boom, let's do business. You don't want to. Why? You say, because it's too much. Well, you have to test it, make sure it's real. And you say, well, if I could make this cheap, would you buy it? And he said, yes. Okay, so I solved that objection. He's ready to move forward. Now we can move into negotiation. But to close this deal, let's say I can't make it cheap. So now I come over here, and that's why you have to be careful with your hypothetical solutions. Because when you use some way out stupid, no-brainer, then it's harder to solve the problem. Because step two is solving the problem. So like if my wife's not here. Okay, so let's pretend your wife's not here. And I said, well, if she was here and she told you to pull the trigger, would you move forward?
If we can't do an agreement on the price.
Yeah, so no, pretend it ain't about that. Your only objection is you got to get the wife. And I said to you, well, I'm gonna solve it with a hypothetical. so I can test it. You got to get the wife? Well, if she was here and she told you to do it, would you move forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So I removed the objection, and now I got to solve the problem. What's the problem? What's the problem? No.
The wife.
What's the problem? So solve it with logic. Leverage obvious gain, intelligence, common sense. What's one way? Let's just come out with a little brainstorm session. I'll bet you we come up with 10. What's one way to solve the problem that the wife's not there?
Get her on FaceTime.
Where's another one? What's another one? Huh?
Send her a picture.
What's another one? Like, we can just keep going. Go get her. Okay? Like, send a limo for her. Like, how big's the deal? The wife's not here is the problem. He said if she was here and told her to move forward, would you do it? He said yes. That means the wife's not here is real. So you got to solve that fucking problem. The wife's not here. Okay, let's go get her. I can't. Let's go do this. She's in the hospital. Whatever the reasons are, you may not close the deal or handle the objection all the way to fruition, because all deals are not closable. But to have the skill to understand that that's the real one or not is doubly powerful. As soon as you know that it's real, now you just use intelligence and common sense to try to solve this problem based on the hypothetical, if you're smart. So, I mean, I've closed a bunch of them. I closed one right here where I said, dude, if it was free, would you do it? He said, yeah. And I said, well, if I can somewhere in between free and what I'm asking, we got a deal. He's like, you closing me right now? Yeah, buddy, that's what I'm doing. So I just went, if it was free, would you do it? Yes. Oh, okay. Then we got a deal. Same thing, same concept. That's how you handle an objection. You identify and isolate it, then you solve it with intelligence and common sense, and you leverage obvious gain, the obvious gain of the product or service to benefit what you found out during your gathering intel phase. What you found out, you use that and you leverage that into the close as well. And then you solve that problem. Like, I've done it a million times. Like, it's too much money. Well, if I could make it cheaper, would you buy it? They're like, yeah, if it was cheaper, I'd buy it. Well, let's go in and see how cheap I can get it. Then I get down and I'm like, well, what are your payments? And then next thing you know, I'm like, dude, $700 a month, you can afford that? That I can sell it to you for $18,000. Your payment's $697. You can swing that. And, all right, yeah, you're right. So you leverage the obvious gain of the product or service to their benefit while you're using intelligence and common sense, solving the problem that you hypothetically removed. That's it.
What's helping me win?
Maybe there's something broken with everybody else, and maybe you have it right. Because I've seen what you've built here. I've seen what's growing. I know what your upside is here too. And so you didn't get here by playing it close to the vest. And I think that, I'm telling you, that was one of the things broken in me. Ironically, now that I don't have to, it's funny, I take way more risks now than I did before